Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Kitab Sharh Ajaib al-Qalb, The Marvels of the Heart, but this is book 21 of Ihya Ulumuddin, The Revival of the Religious Sciences, that is the Islamic Sciences, translated by Walter James Kelly. We are on page 97, and the major last story that we read then was about Jesus Christ, peace upon him, for a pillow. And Satan loved it that Jesus Christ, peace upon him, took something from this world, that he desired that. But soon Jesus Christ, peace upon him, gave up this stone too. And this is not, of course, a hadith. So, as we say, this is Israeliyat from the stories of the people of the book, one way or the other. But they comment, this being true for a stone, what is the state of one who possesses downy pillows and a soft bed and goodly recreation places? When will such a man rouse himself to the worship of God the Exalted? Especially at night, especially the extra supererogatory prayers. Another of his great entrances, meaning the entrances of Satan, is stinginess and the fear of poverty. That is what prevents him from spending and giving alms, and instead summons him to store up goods, to lay up treasures, and to that painful punishment that is promised to those who vie with one another in possessions, even as the noble Quran says. Khaytham ibn Abd al-Rahman quotes Satan as saying, "No son of Adam has overcome me, nor will anyone overcome me in three things when I command him: taking money wrongfully, spending it wrongfully, and withholding it from its proper use." Think about the opposite. Taking money rightfully, spending it rightfully, and not withholding it from its proper use, like putting it into proper use. Sufyan said, Satan has no weapon like the fear of poverty. And if man accepts this from him, he undertakes vain deeds, withholding the right, talking passionately, and supposing evil of his Lord. One of the evils of stinginess is a greedy frequenting of markets to gather money, for marketplaces are the nesting places of demons. The marketplaces are almost like the center of gravity of materialism, especially the contemporary malls, when the going to the mall becomes almost like and I'm sorry for using this is the time of Hajj and people are still in Mecca. So people perform Hajj to the mall. In Mecca, you circumambulate the Kaaba 7 times. In the mall, you keep circumambulating. I mean, it is designed in a way that you will lose, direction. Inside the department stores, it is designed in a way that you would lose direction, and you go around and around and in vain. Abu Umama quoted the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam as saying, it's a weak hadith, but we'll read it. When Iblis descended to the earth, he said, O Lord, you have cast me down to the earth and caused me to become accursed. So appoint for me a house. The Lord answered, the bath. And this is not really a spa, okay? Then he said, appoint for me a place to sit. God answered, the marketplaces and the intersections of the streets. He said, appoint food for me. He answered, that over which the name of God has not been mentioned. He said, appoint the drink for me. He answered, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered, everything intoxicating. He said, Satan, appoint for me an announcer. God answered, musical instruments. He said, appoint a Quran for me. God answered, poetry. He said, appoint for me a kind of writing. God answered, tattooing. He said, appoint speech for me. God answered, falsehood. He said, appoint snares for me. God answered, woman. It's not a hadith. But one should be, there is definitely a message in this dialogue, if you will. One should avoid as much as possible certain things, not as much as possible in the absolute sense. In the absolute sense, the intoxicating drinks, for example, there is no room for that. The mother of all evil, alcohol, wine, alcohol, doesn't make much difference to the name. If it has alcohol, then it's included in the prohibition. Okay. Poetry, poets, many poets do not use poetry for truth or for righteousness or for piety or for advocating the good. But there are poets who are praised in the Quran nevertheless. Tattooing, I'm not going to speak about every single part of this weak hadith, though it's very interesting to speak about the topics here. Tattooing, there is like a tattooing salons, as they call them, tattoo parlors, tattoo studios. They are all over the place now. And I've seen young men, Arab Muslim young men, who buy motorbikes and they tattoo their arms pretty much like the Harley Davidson gangsters in the United States. and women, and now it's almost beyond control in public. Absolutely prohibited. Absolutely prohibited. There is no room for that. Mind you, it is still haram. You can expose your body to as necessary for a surgery, for a medical checkup for, but not for tattooing. Not even same sex, same gender, as we call it. It's uh, it's unacceptable. It's haram to expose even people. They expose their private parts to tattoo their private parts. والعياذ بالله. It's yep. So as I said, I'm not going to comment on all of the content of this week hadith, though it's very interesting. Maybe just one more falsehood. Falsehood. That's the speech. Falsehood. Um, do you recall the construct fake news? That's what it is. That's what it is. Many. It's an amazing thing today. Major news outlets, very famous, global, and they resort to falsehood. Another, we continue reading now. Another of his great doors, meaning of Satan, is sectarian and partisan prejudices. التعصب للمذاهب والأهواء. Secret hatred of opponents and looking upon them contemptuously and disdainfully. This is one of the things that destroy both pious and profligate together. For one of the savage characteristics in nature is an inborn disposition to calumniate and to busy oneself with men's shortcomings. If one could remember the nature of the relationship between the Muslim scholars, we have four major the Sunnite schools. It doesn't mean that these are the only legitimate schools in the amongst the Sunnites. We have. Let me just go over what you already know. So we have the Abu Hanifa and Malik and Shafi'i and Ahmad al-Hanbal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them. How about Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimahullah? That's also, we have many schools of jurisprudence in this case. And Sufyan al-Thawri, at one point, his madhab spread out, and you'll be surprised, in Armenia and Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan today, of course, is shifted towards Shiism. Okay, that's in terms of jurisprudence. And one would wish that the issue is adopting the Ja'fari, the original Ja'fari, Imam Ja'far Sadiq, his jurisprudence. He was a contemporary of Abu Hanifa, and it's a legitimate school of jurisprudence. So they did not intend their schools of Jews. They did not even establish schools. They presented their ijtihad. They presented sometimes different criterion, but they were not establishing schools per se. So that one would basically limit himself or herself in the absolute sense. Imam Al-Ghazali himself, for example, when he spoke about the minimum water that would remain pure if impurity falls into the into this water, he said adopt the position of Imam Malik because it allows lesser quantity, and that's really for the benefit of people. That's this is beautiful. Okay, so you could be well versed in one school, but keep certain openness and belonging to a specific school of jurisprudence. This is very important because you need it, first of all. Number two, it's also part of your identity. Don't be simply without any specific school, but at the same time, avoid the this sectarianism and don't really don't really look for shortcomings or mistakes. I saw within the last 24 hours an American scholar, Muslim scholar. I respect him really, and I think he's academically. When I say academically, I don't mean that he is not good otherwise. وَرَزَقَ Allah هذا. He's good academically, but in the he was translating at one point, and it's been a while it seems. He was translating for an Arab scholar, and he wanted to make sure that he was translating the right thing and back and forth as translators would do. But the video that there's a video that simply says such and such scholar does not know Arabic. You know, suppose that he did not know a specific word. Do you know Arabic? Do you know Arabic? Do you know the hundreds of names of the lion in Arabic? Hundreds of names. I think more than 600. And one should not disdain the other. We should love people for their belonging to the to la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Okay, I know that there are those who keep bashing others. If you have something good to say, just say it. You don't have to bash others. And Imam Ghazali is very, very respectful. Just go back to the Book of Knowledge and see how he speaks about the four and beyond the four. How he speaks about Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, and Imam Ahmad Hanbal. One thing though, he did start with Imam Shafi. He did not follow the chronological order. That's and that much I would say is okay. He's simply reflecting because Imam Ghazali is Shafi and is Ash'ari and is Sufi. So when Satan makes, Continue reading. So when Satan makes this appear to a man as the truth, it is agreeable to his nature. Its sweetness overcomes his heart, and he goes to work at it with all enthusiasm. He is glad and happy in it, and thinks that he is striving in the field of religion when he is really endeavoring to follow Satan. Thus, you will see one who is a devoted partisan of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu, and at the same time a partaker of that which is unlawful, giving free rein to his tongue as a busybody and in falsehood, being addicted to all manner of corruption. Were it possible for Abu Bakr to see him, he would be his foremost enemy. For the follower of Abu Bakr is he who chooses his way and walks in his mode of life and guards his mouth. It was a habit of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, to put pebbles in his mouth so that his tongue might be silent about what did not concern him. Did we practice silence? So how can such a busybody pretend loyalty to him and love for him while he does not follow his way of life? Then you will see another individual who goes beyond all bounds in his partiality for Ali, radiallahu anh, Ali bin Abi Talib. Now Ali was such an ascetic in his manner of life that he wore while he was caliph a garment that he bought for 3 dirhams. That would be considered cheap, nothing extravagant. And he cut off the end of the sleeve up to the back of the hand, because if it's really, it goes beyond um, the length of the arm all the way to the tip of the hand. That would it's like a show off. But you see the profligate wearing silk garments and adorned with wealth gained unlawfully, while he quarrels over love of Ali radiallahu anh, and pretends such love, when in fact Ali will be his foremost opponent on the day of resurrection. The love of Ali bin Abi Talib, it's very strange how it reached the level of divinization of Ali bin Abi Talib. And this is a very sad story. And I really invite people to think not only twice, just think about the exaggeration that is out there. Out of exaggeration, people, I did hear it, myself. They say that Ali himself is God. I know it from our books, historically. I know and of course it's a misnomer, but that's how they are called in the Alawites, and that's not exactly it's different from those who literally are from the descendants of Ali bin Abi Talib. And I did speak with a Turkish Alawite about the issue of divinization of Ali bin Abi Talib. I know it from our books. I did teach it at university level. And when I had a chance, and it was a conference in Istanbul some 15 years ago, maybe, and I asked a well educated man about who participated himself also in the conference about the divinization of Ali bin Abi Talib, and he said this is widespread amongst villagers, meaning that educated people do not really subscribe to this idea, and people in the city. And I asked him one question: what do you do about it? Like, do you try to educate people? Because this is really You need to save them. You need to save them. The same thing applies to Al Hussein bin Ali and other members of his family. You should love them. There's no doubt. You should not exaggerate in your love. And definitely do not use any narrative that would be understood either directly or indirectly as divinizing Ali ibn Abi Talib and his family. Imam Ghazali continues by saying, what would you say of a person who took a man's son, dear to him, his consolation and his heart's life, and began to beat him and tear him, to pluck out his hair and cut it off with shears, and at the same time pretend to love the boy's father and be loyal to him? What would be the father? What would the father think of such a man? Now it is a known fact that religion and religious law were more loved by Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, and the rest of the companions, radiallahu anhum, than family or son, nay, rather, more than their own selves. Those who rush blindly into disobedience to the law, disobedience to the law, are they who rend the law and cut it off with the shears of lust, and thereby show their love for Iblis, Satan, the enemy of God and his saints. What then do you suppose will be their condition on the day of resurrection in the presence of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and the saints of God? Nay, rather, if they lid were removed, like the cover, so that these might know that the companions desire in the people of God's Messenger, وسلم, they would be ashamed to mention them with their tongue because of the turpitude of their acts. Satan also makes them imagine that if anyone dies devoted to Abu Bakr and Umar, the fire will not come near him. He makes another imagine that if he dies devoted to Ali, there is no fear for him. This is what the Messenger of God وسلم, also said to Fatima, anha, who was part of himself, do righteously, for I cannot take your place in anything God requires. That Fatima anha, alayhi salam, that she was part of the Prophet ﷺ. This is hadith muttafaq alayhi, narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. The same thing about do righteously, for I cannot take your place in anything God requires. So inshallah, we will continue with this particular hadith. Inshallah, we'll start with it at the beginning of the next session, and we will comment on this hadith of Fatima radiallahu anha wa alayhi salam. Until then, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.